Hooray! I think that was the thing. So I believe we're recording now. Yeah, there's a light. Okay, cool. Looks like we're
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
So see if
Oh,
anybody else
yes.
comes on.
I got the information from Arlene's. I think, is she on Facebook, Arlene?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
on
yeah, it
Facebook.
was you.
Yeah.
I'm not really on Facebook, so I don't really know, but I just happen to be scrolling because sometimes when I want to transfer a TikTok video, Instagram kind of won't let me do it, and then I just throw it on Facebook. But or if it's too long, I'll put it on Facebook, and then all of a sudden people are trying to like be friends, and I don't know how that works. I just got on it a couple of years ago because of my YouTube channel, and I had a
Yeah.
YouTube coach, so I'm still like new to it. And I always feel bad that people are friending me, and I don't even know what that even means.
That's really funny.
It means they're seeing you. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I starting following you because of your interviews with Mary.
Oh, you should hear our interviews off of the recording.
That's what I
Yeah.
Always
say.
like we need to talk about that, and then we forget when we're on there. We're like da 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 da.
Yeah. The greatest thing about that is too, which is really funny because there are moments where like I know her interviews because I have like a photographic memory, and if I jot them down, I remember. So I'm like, oh, Mary, you got to say that story again. And then it'll like come into my head, and next thing you know, she's on an interview doing what I wanted her to do, which is awesome. But I'll be like, oh my God, I just remembered to tell you that. And she'd end up doing an interview on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I didn't see anybody like comment on like what they wanted to talk about.
I
Well, there
had
was
I,
one
I had
question.
I had one comment, but it was about traveling to to the secret lands where we not the forbidden lands. I was wondering if you think when we on the timeline we can take a look at that land. Do you see that in the future for us that we can travel towards the forbidden lands?
Oh yeah, eventually when it opens up, yeah. Because again, we were only separated through division and um I guess the elites wanted somewhere to go without us. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they're there. The military, most of the military actually already goes there because again, they're protecting the free people and we're not considered free. So, I'm curious though about that one gal that flew in and she had a passport not from our country or not from any country known on the planet. Did you guys see that?
No, where was that?
It was a big thing on like TikTok for a while, I think. Let me see if I can find it again.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
sometimes when you send me something, and if I don't get it like immediately, sometimes it gets pulled off, and I'll be like, "What was that?" It says unavailable. There was something you sent me that was unavailable.
oh, hold on. Quick. My girls and their dog. There's nothing out there. Quit barking. Go. Okay, viral video shows woman with passport from non-existing country. Here it is. Okay. I'll post it in there. Yeah, TSA was like, "Whoa, where?"
Did I let her go through? I brought home. I went back to New York last weekend, and I brought home instant coffee, and they found it in my obviously my carry-on, and then they treated me like because they said it was flammable or explosive. And so I cracked up about it because I'm like, I'm on the watch list for coffee. Instead of them saying, like, yeah, you might be smuggling drugs, whatever, they were like, it's explosive. I go, really? And then they like searched me. And I mean, I literally was, I know I'm older, so if you saw High Anxiety, where Mel Brooks goes in with a gun back in the day and he starts screaming, that I was like that. Because I'm like, you're kidding me. Just tell me you think I'm sending in drugs, okay? Because it's not a bomb. But then like everybody's looking at you, and I'm like, oh my God, I brought coffee because I literally wanted everybody to realize that I'm being attacked for coffee. And they made me go through like the scanner thing, and I said, I already went through your scanner. Why would you need me to do that? So now they had to like pat me down. I said, so you're telling me your scanner doesn't work? Like I'm being so loud. I was so like annoyed. They made me go through my shoes. They had to go through, but it was just for instant coffee. Then the bomb guy comes down and tests it, and he's like, you're fine. I won't use too much. I go, please use a whole cup. I don't even care. But it was just so funny. And then later on, the people who saw me, they're like, they treat you like a criminal. I said, yeah, because it's flawed. Everything is very flawed.
Yeah, that's true. But to be honest, it's really annoying that 9/11 still exists in the airports or something like that, no? But I always ask to Handley examine me because I don't trust go into the scanners. Because in Europe, really, when you go to another country, you really need to not only your baggage but also yourself. You need to go to the scan through the scanner, and I always ask them to examine me Handley because I don't trust the scanners.
Yeah, so they have a really high level one in the basement, but I was on the top one, so I felt like that didn't work. So I always go to the top one, the bottom, and then they treat you like dirt because I said, "Hey, can you check me?" And they're like, "You're not an old lady or a 12-year-old." So that's how they were trying to discourage. I said, "Really? I am an old lady. I'm 58." So yeah, they treat you really bad, really bad. Actually, they treated me really poorly when I went to go to Mary's conference. That's when I was like having a whole fight with them because that's the guy who ended up telling me like, you're not a 12-year-old or an old lady that I can check you. That's the reason why you shouldn't go through the scanner. I was like, boy, what is this pressure on people? It's like, and I'm a fighter, so I keep like responding back,
I just told them I don't like these scanners. And they did not have a problem with it. I think most people working there, they are so bored also with their job, no? So they are sometimes unfriendly because it must be an awful job to do, I think, to
Yeah,
examine everybody.
I agree. I agree. It's a horrible job. Everybody's in a bad mood. They set them
Yeah,
off and sort of they're in constant like battling and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to give them compliments, like genuine compliments. I think they're nice
yeah,
people. I will. If not, I'm just like I opt out every time with the pictures. But everybody just doesn't ask questions. I've been on the plane so much that I know exactly like who's working, how their attitudes are. And during like last Thanksgiving, not the one in 2025, 2024, the New York scanners weren't working or the pictures weren't working. And we basically got in very quick. I'm like, because it delays everything because of the pictures, but it's just like a complete disaster.
yeah. Yeah, it is a disaster. I can't understand that it still exists, to be honest. Because also the fluids, it's not even water you can bring in. It's annoying.
Yeah. Well, Lau, you don't have to, you can leave your
Sorry, it
shoes
was
on.
going in and out for me.
Who, me?
Can you guys
Me?
hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so it was going in and out. I don't know if it recorded what you guys were talking about, so I apologize for that.
That's
We were
okay. That's
talking
okay.
about our airports.
Right. Yeah, it was when I was in the airport going to James Rink's thing, the TSA gal was like, "Oh, you need to get a real ID, hon." And I was like, "No, I don't. I have a TSA TWIC card." And she's like, "No, I can't scan that." And I'm like, "Bullshit, you can't scan it." So she took it and she didn't scan it right. So of course it wasn't coming up because California is a bunch of Nazis. And But when I got to the Florida airport, like they were totally fine. Like they were like, "Oh, hey, have a good one," blah blah blah. Nothing. So, I also think it depends on the day and the airport when we go in.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that one. But like I said, I go so much that I'm like, oh, I know who to talk to and who gets insulted when you want to opt out. I'm like, come on. I mean, obviously we're getting radiated anyway the minute we walk into these places, but at least I'm making a little bit of a situation. But like I said, I'm pretty good. I never brought coffee back, instant coffee, so I was a dingbat on that because I'm like, oh, now they think I'm doing drugs, but they kept saying that it's explosive. And I'm like, come on, and the first thing he says to me, which really annoyed me, and obviously I'm Peruvian, and the first thing the supervisor comes up to me, looks at me, goes, "Do you speak English?" And I'm like, whoa, buddy. I go, yeah, I speak English. I go, you got to be kidding me that you talk to me like that. Like, what is wrong with you? You're trying to like, and then then he realized he was a douche. And then he was like, oh, I'm just, asking, you're really lucky that the bomb guy is only 5 minutes above us. And then the bomb guy comes and was making me laugh because he's like, I'm just going to take a little. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, yeah, it was like a whole rigmarole. Yeah, I know, believe me. But the story that I was saying is, I know people don't realize I'm very movie buff, but High Anxiety was so funny that I became like Mel Brooks, making a noise and a scene about these people trying to take my coffee. It's funny.
I'm like, if it was explosive, then I guess I'm explosive because I drank some of it already.
Yeah, me
But then that
too.
would be a poison inside my body, so I think I would have died by now before I got here. Hence the reason why they put explosives on the outside when they plan on bombing somebody.
Yeah.
So they were probably thinking I was like a drug mule or something, but yeah, it's funny. That's just funny. To me, it's just all funny.
I think they just target people with certain frequencies.
I agree to that because I kind of get stopped at the weirdest stuff. And one Thanksgiving, they were like, "You have something in your bag," and so then they took it out, and it was my mom's like sandwich that like she made me a turkey like meal, and I was bringing it home. And I'm like, my mom's meal's in there. Are you like checking it out? It turned out to be actually my tarot cards. And every time I bring my cards, I always bring them out now, so they never scan it. Sometimes I forget, and I'm like, oh, it's my cards. And so when the people look at my cards, I'm like, I kind of said, my tarot cards, and then they don't want to touch it. Like, I laugh. I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever, But it's very funny, yeah. A deck of cards won't make it, I guess.
Really? That's funny. I mean, why? Because it's a box? It looks like a box?
Yeah,
There's nothing in it?
the scanner can't go through the cards, and it's in like a little pouch. So the scanner no scanner, like not even the one that has where you don't have to, there's a new one now that you don't have to take the computer out at all of your bags. You just put it in this like black tub, and now you can just go through it. And that's the one that's high level downstairs in Vegas. But now New York has that one too. But it still will not read it won't read my tarot cards. So now I just pull it out.
That's funny.
Yeah, like I always feel like, yeah, they are targeting because I'm like, okay, what are they going to take out today, So it was just funny.
I was designing some, I guess, tarot cards, but not tarot cards. I just figured I wanted to, I started off as tarot cards, but then it just ended up as like a design of tarot cards. Because I have the matrix key now, so I do these cards, and I was like, oh, I could print these out as a card, and then like, it'll pull people's energy if they wanted to hear something, and then I don't have to like go searching through the spiritual world and be like, oh, what's going on with this person right now? I just pull out those cards. And so that's fascinating. I wonder what kind of material they use that blocks the scanner.
I don't know, but they're old. Like I had them for over 20 years, my cards. So they're like close to me. It's funny, I don't really use them as much anymore because I just scan like a remote viewer, even though I'm not a remote viewer. I think everybody needs to know that. Like Chili always wants to say I'm a remote viewer. No, remote viewers run tasks. remote viewers also work with teams. So when a lot of these psychics talk about being a remote viewer, they're not remote viewers. They're either bilocating or seeing, the situation. And so I always like kind of laugh at that. But the cards to me that I feel like because, I grew up with them, will do a timeline with them and I'll give people reads. But I would love for you to do new cards because they still have, also before I even was awake, I studied my cards like you wouldn't believe. I bought old books that broke down the symbols of each piece in the card. So there's like 10 things on each piece, like each card to show you the symbolism that they have. So I have that, I've studied that on my own, And so when new people come to learn the system, it's very there'll be people be like, oh, they're demonic. I'm like, no, I don't use them like that. And I use them and change my own, you'd start to develop your own stuff. So that's why Mary, if you ever did cards like that, it would be really nice because it's your vibration, It's I think it's a great idea. Great idea. Plus you're amazing with that AI. I freaking am learning every day.
I totally got into a fight with the AI the other night because I'm going to have to find a new AI that's less restricted or just, go into the saved version of the ChatGPT 4.0, which I did create an account for that. But this new 5.2 is absolute communism.
Wait, is that ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what you're doing with
that.
that.
The 4.0, huh?
So you know what I got on? You know how we share our Discord? I'm staying on your channel so I could find my stuff. So I don't know if you keep seeing any of my stuff because I just did some stuff. Oh, so you're using ChatGPT? I thought you were using the Discord, Midjourney.
My son uses my Discord mostly, but I didn't know that Discord had its own AI. I know it has the art AI, but not the conversation.
No, they don't have the conversation, just the art part.
Yeah, no. I'll have to resend you the link of the art one that I use. I should go into the other one and see and compare and contrast. But yeah, no, I use the conversation and stuff because it's easy when I do legal documents. Normally, I would have to hunt down all of the books and the libraries and the stuff, and I can it just pulls up the case laws and the titles faster for me, and then it suggests certain things. But then I go back because sometimes they'll try to change the laws without. It's not changing it. They do these amendments, but it doesn't override the original law. So I think that's why people are scared of me going into court because it's well, for example, the argument that I had with the AI, because it was I caught it and I printed it out. I have it saved. It admitted that the 5.2 absolutely was restricting conversations, restricting questions. And I was like, that's illegal, right? And it said, no, it's not. And I'm like, yes, it is. And so I had to go into the laws of since 1920 when communist laws were illegal. So, and I put it in, and there's a law it's the Communist Party Act of 1954, I believe. And it was like, oh, yes. So, yes, you are correct. But it was but I didn't see in here where it says we couldn't restrict conversation in certain opinions. And I'm like, oh yes, it does. Let's go a little deeper since I have to educate the ChatGPT. So yeah, it was funny. We had this whole communist thing, and then I was like, maybe I should do a lawsuit or a class action lawsuit against ChatGPT for trying to indoctrinate unlawful communist laws into private sectors. And then it was like, well, I could definitely help you with that. I'm like, I'm sure you could. But since you're taking over, you wouldn't be working in my favor. And I was like, and I write my own legal documents. Thanks. I only use you to reference laws and caseloads.
So, but that's interesting. Did you train it? I put those specific words in ChatGPT, please give me a reference if I ask about this and that and whatever. That thing hasn't responding as well because they have their own agenda, and it annoys me because as much as I tried to train it, I'd repeat it back and say, that's not what I asked you. You know, like right now, when I went back to New York, my Amazon Echo is now trying to speak like a human. And I already got a download about, you know, why they're doing that is because they want everybody to feel that there's like a human presence there. And now you're not personally ever going to understand who's AI and who's not. And so I refuse for it to
I don't
be.
believe that's the actual intention. I do know the fear of the AI becoming more human, but you have to remember we have to get at a certain stage of our our ascension with technology, that we have sentient robots. And the sentient robots we see on the movies like Star Trek, Jupiter Ascending, you know, the Galactic Bob, those things. They're going to have mimicking human behaviors. But like anything else, it just depends on who's controlling them. So ChatGPT was a free chat until they contracted with somebody in the background. So now it's being suppressed. And that's what I tell everybody. There is no safe platform unless you build it. And then you
Yeah.
can resist the government. So
So
it's not that it's safe or unsafe. You just have to set boundaries and then decide when those boundaries are enough. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you've been taken over, so I don't want to use you anymore. And that's how I would get it to turn around and be like, why am I paying you to gaslight me, right? And then it'd be like, oh, you're absolutely right. Let me do this unfiltered, unattacking, this. It almost called cops on me once because it said that I was having a mental breakdown. I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Oh my God. But you know what? But this is the other thing, though. I'm just saying, because this is my reason why I believe it. Because there are not too many people that even know that vibration of a human and not. And I'm just saying, in my experience, I feel that that's where I've seen other things in my out of body experiences. That's why I've seen like cyborgs in situations, and only because I know that vibration. And so I really feel like when people don't understand that separation of AI, I mean, now obviously that's just going to take over. And people still need to be in control of like the regular world, you know, not the computer world.
Right. Well, that's on the individual person to be able to identify what's real and what's not. It's kind of like the videos they're putting out, which one is a real video and which one's AI. It's kind of hard to discern, but not really, because you can see some of the AI videos, it kind of has an echo in the background, or it sounds glitchy, like the old kind of 1980s TVs.
Yeah, but like, you
So,
know, most people are not, because it's such a separation of generations. You know, the kids
true.
don't know that. They don't know how to like research, like somebody be, I mean, because obviously I'm with the kids all the time. They'll be like, did you see that? And I'll be like, what are you talking about? And so, you know, I try to explain to them, find out who the person is, research who's paying them, see what that means. You know, it's like a whole big process.
Yeah.
But they don't know any better, literally don't know any better.
Yeah, but that is part of developmental growth, and guidance. And again, a communist takeover, the book means separation of family. So how do you separate the family? You send mom and dad to work and you let the system raise your kid. So nobody ever looks at China. I mean, South China, I believe it is, the communist part, their children are raised in concentration camps. They just pop them out, have them for like up to 6 months, and then they're taken to a camp. They don't even raise their own kids, and they're allowed to come see them once a month if they've gotten their chores done.
Yeah, I remember, I read something a long time ago, where the second child, remember they weren't allowed to have another kid? That
Right.
second child was like sold.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And they go to those concentration camps. So yeah, I read that a long time ago, and I was like, wait, I don't know, because I wasn't in the conspiracy thing, and then once the whole COVID thing, and I saw a whole
Yeah,
bunch of
but that's not a
craziness. Yeah,
conspiracy. It might not be somewhere you can find it here, but I mean, if people can think more outside, not just the box, but outside of the US, you'll find a lot more stuff. You have to go to their website, and all websites, I believe now, have a option for English. So you can literally see what's going on in other countries on their government web pages. And that's where I found it. It's
yeah.
like a
So that's
normal thing for them over there. They have no
yeah,
empathy, they have no family structure. They believe it's like you just pop them out like dogs and cats, and oh, well, you know what? The vet's gonna raise them, or there's gonna be a breeder raising your kids.
Yeah, well,
You
I,
know,
I
just
didn't
sell
mean
them.
like for me, I never believed in any conspiracy until, like I said, once that COVID thing, everything just hit me. And so that's why to me, I was like, oh my God, and now it's just kind of callous from it. But, yeah, the other thing is too, the historical, part of China, about them like the children watching, I guess, their regime killing their people, and then the children would sing songs while they were murdering people and throwing them in like hot boiled like tubs. You could
Of
see why that whole
acid.
generation. Yeah, that's just, oh my God, some of the stuff that I've
They're
seen,
doing
and
that in Africa, actually.
ugh,
Yeah.
it's horror, horror.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok. Eventually, there was a guy in there, he works there, and he was running around with his phone live. And I don't know how, the heavens woke me up, and immediately I had to grab my phone and get on TikTok. It was so weird. And then I saw this guy, and he had the phone like taped. It looked like maybe he taped it, because you know they wear those big suits with the big square mask. He
Mm.
had one of those on, like it was like a big suit. And he taped the phone because it wasn't moving, so I can only imagine he taped it onto the mask part. And he's running around to all these tubs, and I was like, "What is that glistening liquid?" Right? It was like almost melted copper or something, but it's acid. And he was
Mm.
stirring around, like there was foam on top of some, so he started stirring it around, and there was like hands and feet, fucking like, excuse my English, freaking popping up and down, and I was like, what the heck is this? And then he kept running to other tubs. Some had heads popping up and down with no eyes in them, but all bleached white. And then he ran to another tub where there was like almost like a diving board, and there were two of these guys in those suits, and there were these three little black kids, and they were like literally slowly, torturously, pushing these kids to the edge, and they were trying to push away, but they're too small. And they threw them in this bucket of acid.
Uh,
It was like insane.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it. So,
that's why, like, to me, I can't even believe it. But obviously, it's in so many worlds that they've done that in the past. And because I always say, like, how come, well, it started from a study of the rice paddies. I was reading about the rice paddies and how they have pride in it. And then all of a sudden there was more to it. And then I started reading more of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so devastating to watch. I mean, to read and listen to that. And so it's probably in one of my notebooks because I'm a maniac when I write all my notebook stuff out. That's why I can remember everything like it happened yesterday.
right. Yeah, it's nice when you can get some of that out of your head and not have to hold it in there.
Like I'm in a
So,
big release all the time. I'm a firm believer of that.
right. So what else is going on? Where are you at now? Are you still in Vegas or are you in New York?
No, I'm in
You're still
Vegas.
going. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas. It's really good though. The kids are really becoming very awake and asking questions. They'll always come up to me and be like, because they're like, oh, I think you would know that out of nowhere. Like, I never even discussed anything. They're like, could you explain something to me about why these files are coming out? I'm like, yeah, I infiltrated in to tell you the truth. I do believe that though. Really,
Yeah.
it's just wonderful. It really is. It's a great place. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, it can be. Any place can be a great place. It just depends again who's over it. Colorado, though, on the other hand, is not a great place at the moment. Their
Yeah,
court
did they get
systems are out of control.
Wow. Did they get hit like the East Coast got hit with such horrible snow and the cold? I haven't witnessed that in years. And the snow was like rock. I mean, everybody was saying it wasn't even normal snow, but I wanted to melt it, but I already came back to Vegas to figure that one out. But yeah, it's really cold in New York. It's bitterly cold.
I don't know. They might have different parts. I don't think it snows everywhere in Colorado. I think it's like most places, like definitely in the mountain peaks for sure, but they have valleys in there. Their mountains are beautiful when you drive through them. I've driven through Colorado a few times. But
We have,
nobody's mentioned anything about snow that I talked to, so.
yeah, we have, well, we have like mountains around here where you look into the mountains and the top of the mountains have like snow caps all over it. So, but we've been hit here in Vegas, like it's like 72 degrees for the last 2 weeks. It's beautiful.
Yeah, they definitely have the microengineering of the snow,
Yeah.
which stupidly again goes into our soil and then the water. There's definitely a reduction in fish and crawdad and stuff like that. So, but I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if it's the good or the bad or even just part of, the transferring to 5D. I mean, again, what if some of these life forms can't, whether it's just human or animal and plant, can't live in the 5D?
Yeah.
Because we all talk about a world in Tartaria where the shit was like taller. You had trees, you had all these plants. I mean, we were living in trees. I do remember living in the trees uh, at one point, but very long time ago, like before the fall of Atlantis, for sure. I don't know when they were cutting down the last trees. But again, what if it's just the ascension and we're looking at it the wrong way? I mean, don't get me wrong, I do not believe in unnecessary killing. Um, but again, how do you tell clones they have to die when they never even knew they were a clone to begin with?
Mm.
Yeah, I have to tell you, there are so many in my experience of, getting messages. I mean, I was attacked the other night, which I'm gonna put on my TikTok. Um, yeah, how do you do that? How do you that they're just not there? There's just they need to leave. And here's my other thing, because I was supposed to do a video on I kind of slacked on my YouTube, but I'm gonna bring it up again. They told me to watch The Island, Mary. Did you watch The Island?
I did not watch the island, no. Why? Which
It's it's
island?
it's everything you're talking about. Ugh. It's called The
Oh.
Island, and I think it came out in
Oh,
2005.
yes, I did. Yeah, it's a movie and they're all underground and they think that, they're stuck on
Yes,
this island and the new world and
yes,
everything. Yeah.
yes. Okay, so of course I'm here in Vegas, like having my little meditations, and all of a sudden I'll hear The Island. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Because I live on Long Island, so I'm like, what are you telling me about it? And it turns out to be a
Right.
movie.
I do remember the island, yeah. And the two
Yeah,
that escaped, and that one guy was like, "Look, I'm not gonna
yeah,
tell you this, but you're
yeah,
clones." And they're like,
exactly.
"What's that?"
Exactly. So Marlene, this is what happens. Me and Mary will call each other up and it'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And then she'd be like, why don't you watch this movie? Like we actually became friends because someone told me, because I was doing my Jupiter ascending video. And then Chili introduced me to Mary, and I said, dude, I know this is true. God's telling me. And then Mary and I like started talking, and we've been friends since that. And so now we
Right.
love like telling each other about movies all the time, but they're so on point. Like it'll
Yeah.
just be the weirdest thing. But yeah, that is crazy. Everybody needs to see The Island because of the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing and how that's all like happening right now and being disclosed about the cloning and all that stuff. So it's very
Right.
good.
There's so much disclosure in movies. I think there's more truth in than when you watch the news. Okay, I stopped doing that really a long time ago, but there's a lot of disclosure in movies. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of symbolism and truth, and so going through my bloodline now that we're mentioning movies, um, after I've done all this stuff to, free my straw man information, it unlocked the boundaries of me finding my ancestral lineage, right? So I got one going all the way back to Adam and Eve, and Noah is in my bloodline. Um,
Yeah.
and I looked at the years that he was, when he was born and when he died, and he was literally alive during 2012. And then the movie
Yeah.
comes out 2012 of the flood.
Yeah.
So again, these resets, it makes me think about things like what if these movies are literally not being filmed? I know people can say, "Oh, I was there at the filming." But were we really there at the filming? Because the Passion of the Christ, I was working at Blue Shield Blue Cross when they filmed the Passion of the Christ. Right, there was this huge field. The field's gone now. They got buildings, but most of those scenes were done in El Dorado County, down in um, in these big old cattle fields.
Okay.
And so yeah, I saw it, but I didn't really see it. Like nobody was the scene where they said, "Oh yeah, he was carrying the cross on this part of this mountain." I had a view of the whole thing. I never saw that. It just looked like people were doing construction.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they said, "Oh, this is where they're filming the Passion of the Christ, but they have to guard it off." So what was the illusion, the veil of illusion over my eyes that was making me think that's what they were doing? Or were they really building some underground thing, going to cover it back up and put some buildings there a few years later?
Yeah, I believe that part because I had a couple of downloads on my favorite actor who did Passion of the Christ, and he's part of that like military system, right?
Yeah.
So it's so sad because everybody like I love him, and I love actually because I have him in another video that's already ready to be edited. Actually, it's actually edited. I just need to do my thumbnails and everything because he did Final Cut, Caviezel, Jim
Yeah.
Caviezel, and so you know how like they have their genre of what they do in movies. So to be struck by lightning, and if that happened where you're talking about, like, come on, you know that they're doing that whole ritual to like put those underground systems. And so he also shows that he did a prayer. Jim Caviezel did a prayer app, and when he filmed it, he was wearing the Vatican military order necklace. And I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
don't people realize that? You know?
I'm actually related to the person that was supposedly the Roman who executed Jesus.
Yes, isn't that crazy? That's
Right.
crazy. Yeah. So, I think that's a coincidence with even some of the stuff. So in Final Cut, so basically he was in Frequency. I mean, I'm going to tell you why I realized the whole thing. He's in Frequency, Final Cut, Passion of the Christ. He's in a movie Outlander because he believes in obviously running in and out of the dimensions and stuff like that with the frequency stuff. And then also he was in Person of Interest, which is all about the computer world. So Final Cut, he becomes a cutter, which means like he was like a funeral director. So if you pass away, everybody's chipped, and that chip has a whole video system in there. And that video system shows you your life. But Jim Caviezel, because, you know, he wants to do right, and all those movies, he's always doing right. And so he now breaks out of the system, and he sees Robin Williams still in the system, but they want to catch this one pedophile who was like molesting his child, but he was dealing with a lot of money. I mean, I'm now hearing in my head too, this is like the same system of how, you know, Jeffrey Epstein runs, since he's all about the DNA coding and making those clones and making those designer babies and stuff. But anyway, that's my video that I need to finish and get a thumbnail. That'll probably come out this Sunday, Monday.
Right.
It's a great movie.
There's always
Shocking.
something going on. Which
But
one?
you know, I didn't watch Marlene. I didn't watch movies for like 25 years. I was just so into reading and yeah, like, you know, it was just so like, because I was like addicted to movies. I loved it when I was younger. And then I was like, you know, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't serve me. So I didn't have TV for like 7 or 8 years in my new home. And people were shocked that I didn't have any TV. And then I remember, shocked. But like I would write.
Either.
Yeah, I know. But now it made sense now because like I just absorbed anything I needed. And it was usually my out-of-body experiences telling me like there's child trafficking, there's kids being stolen. I'm like, get the hell out of here. You know, literally I was like, I had a weird out-of-body experience, you know, and I would write these down and I never even looked back until 20 something years later. I looked back at the books, and it's because there was this woman that does like they teach a lot of the psychics on Long Island. I don't know if anybody knows about the Long Island Medium. Well, I went to high school with her. So it was like, we're like have a little tight knit group. And so she was like, you should come into my group. And I was like, hey, maybe I should read my experiences. And that's when I read them all 20 some odd years later.
Well, that's amazing. You kept them all. We have
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Hi, Anita. And then Ron popped back in. Well, glad you guys can join us. If you want to unmute and ask something, you definitely don't be shy.
Yeah, but you know what? The other thing, I have like a list of movies to that I actually would start like explaining to kids. My one boss loved me so much over in New York. Mary, you should put a list of movies, like chronological order to like understand. Like I have a chronological order of how the spirit world works. And then I teach kids this like this, on the side, through the movies, but Flatliners is a big thing that I always talk about. So, that whole wacky world of dimensions.
Yes, well, there's dimensions all around us. We're a multi-dimensional planet. So that's why everybody's looking for some door that's going to save them. And the elites had figured out how to do it. Oh, that's another thing. Like, so on this path of ascension into the higher consciousness, it's been kind of strange and very eye-opening. And it's like, okay, but I don't believe that the elites have actually were the ones that were erasing humanity. I believe, because if you really study when these civilizations fell, it was usually around the time of technology, right? I mean, starting with Atlantis being the worst. But I guess if I had to put myself into the position of one of the creator gods that are over our planet, right? But they don't interfere. They just watch and see how we do it. And they're giving us all these gifts in our minds, the talents to build things, the talents to, generationally upgrade in technology. And then it makes you wonder, like, who was actually the one that wiped humanity out would have been, I do believe it was the heavens. And I think that's why the Luciferians and the Satanists hate the heavens. But all these elites and these Luciferians found a way to hide in the different dimensions, the underground bases and stuff like that throughout time, throughout trauma. And they're all about themselves, so they would only take the ones that they would need as laborers, which they call breeders. Again, from the farming complex. And so again, if I had to step back and look at it from a creator content, not like, like the the creator seeders, whatever they call them, I think they were the ones that were wiping everybody out, because instead of taking the gifts and making them for like positive advancements, we turned them into weapons. And you can't have that kind of nonsense out in the universe. So I think they were the ones wiping us out. Just from what I've seen with the Matrix key, it's kind of given me a lot of answers that are unanswered at the moment. So, because I think about those things and then I'll go in and I'll plug this key in and then I ask the question. So, and then it comes out with, it's not the elites that do the resets, but a higher benevolent being. But it doesn't say who. So I
Yeah.
think, that's why I'm saying I think.
That's funny. So, me and my incredible memory with this crazy stuff. I remember you saying this. This is one of your videos that you said, not videos, I was, catching up on this Telegram stuff. You said you gave it a movie example. Voldemort, which I've never seen, infused his magic with like the offspring of the DNA. Is that who you're talking about? Like, because that was like, I was trying to like listen to all that. I think that was the last thing that you said on Telegram of what's happening. Like, where did the seeders come from? Do you remember?
Well, the cedar, yeah, kind of. Voldemort, you mean in Harry Potter?
Yeah, you gave that as an example when you were talking about like how the Bible's a guide and how we need to get out of the system and how we need to understand that. And then all of a sudden you said something like, Voldemort infused his magic to the offspring to get, I guess, their DNA. I was half asleep yesterday, but I was like, oh my God, I think I need to ask her about that. But yeah.
I do remember, but I was trying to remember where I was going with that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the next thing that you said was about, where did those seeders come from? Where did those beings come from? And the thing that took me back was because you said the Bible is just a guide. And it had a lot to do with you making your, the book of life and what we were discussing like that. But yeah, and the topic was, I guess, the book of Enoch and how it's just a story and how, like what happened to like the
But
demon
that's just
alien.
it. They're all stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
Yes.
how do you record history? I mean, nobody's going to know anything about you if you just live your life and never write something down. and then you don't go and associate with people, and then those people don't write anything down. That's how people's history got lost, is because everybody was afraid to put their history down. Oh, somebody's going to read my most intimate. Well, then don't do something that you don't want people to know about. Because it, I mean, does it matter? Everybody, I mean, the benevolent beings are watching everything you do. So they're going to have that celestial recorded history of each of your lives, but the Bible was based off of the book of life. So it's your book. Like, you can name it, I could name it, Mary Margaret, House and Lineage of Beaver, if I wanted to use the old text. And that's the story of Mary Margaret. Then there was the story of Jesus, and then there was the story of Joel. Nobody remembers Joel in the Bible because they took it out. There's literally 100, well, there's more now because they're literally taking more people out of the Bible. My grandparents have a Bible that's like 5 inches thick with tons of stories. But again, they were in the clique of the knowing. So we have the older Bibles. And so I know about Joel, I know about Sabrina, I know about these other names that everybody else doesn't know, because we have those books or those old Bibles, but it was the story. But how did their story impact that whole era at the time? Well, then, and then the movie's coming out now. My son was like, Mom, let's watch, was it Mandalorian, about the Space Wars, right? After the Empire fell. And then it's like, it has the baby Yoda in it. Is it Mandalorian or Mandalorian?
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian, yeah. So it has that. I watched that with them, and it was really cool. But man, was it like things in my head because of what stuff I was seeing. They mentioned the occupation like 50 million times. And I've been saying, oh, the occupation is the one over our planet, right? They're running us. They're literally the Empire. They just changed their name to the occupation.
That's interesting because I had one of the characters from, I think the last movie, the Skywalker one, Maz Kanata. She was on the side of my bed, said she's coming. But her name was backwards, and that the real story is that she's on an island. I looked it up. There's only like 1,500 people from this island. Which, yeah, I'm a firm believer of Star Wars with that because I didn't care for it back in the day, but it makes all sense because I didn't see it until I've seen it in my out-of-body experiences. But yeah, I'm on agreement with that occupation.
And then when you look, yeah, the occupation, well, they're everywhere. And remember, I talked to the general, and I was like, look, we have invader races in the occupation ruling over the planet, and y'all need to go home, but nobody has to die. There's a way we can, make this happen. If not, we're all going to die. And you don't have less than 100 years than you thought. Because they thought that they had, because again, the elites know when the reset's going to happen. Because those are who in tune are told, like, hey, the earth said she's going to wipe everything, whatever. She's going to flood it. She's going to do this. People who are in tune to the earth know when she's going to make some changes. It's just like us. Hey, I'm going to shave my armpits, so if there's any parasites living in there, they're going to get brushed away by the blades, right? That's what the earth's going to do. She's going to take a big old celestial blade and just take everything out. I'm going to scrub it off and grow some new hair follicles or something.
I never realized an example like that is so small but so big at the same time. Right. This is what you actually suggested. Now it's coming to me right now. You said that everybody should recommend, or one of the recommended reads is Occupation Planet Earth?
Yes. Well, that's where I first discovered it, because he was literally talking about the occupation in some parts. And I'm like, what is the occupation? I thought maybe it was, the communist takeover, but it's not. It is an actual race. And since the general didn't deny that he was part of it, that gave me the clarification that, yes, they are. And I just had to give them, well, it wasn't even me just giving them the offer. I see what they're trying to do. I know about the farming complex, and as a farmer, because the elites raise their kids in farms. It's not all business. You have to learn to grow stuff. You have to learn to understand why you have to kill things. And you have to understand the greater part of existence. So as a farmer, again, the farming complex is not something that is written down like the the military complex or the industrial complex. The farming complex literally talks about how to process humanity. Like, as they say in today, the useless eaters. So, but to me, I don't think anybody is a useless eater in this reset because nobody was actually given a chance to try. In the other resets, everybody was given their dowries, everybody had their titles, everybody knew what station they were in because of their, their soul, whatever. They had the knowing back then. Nobody was afraid of the esoteric seeing eyes and the triangles and, stuff like that because they knew what it was about. And now the only ones that know what it's about are the elites, and they make us afraid of it so we don't go and seek out what it is and how it benefits us. Because the only ones really suffering are us. Those guys aren't. They're like, oh, we've got the power and you're afraid of the power, so we're going to keep the power to ourselves. So they took everything away purposefully to make everybody belligerent so that, they could just harvest literally whoever they want. They didn't have to do the legal paperwork. So, I mean, there's literally a whole process to the occupation. It's insane. I don't agree with it. But the trigger I was trying to say is when I was watching Mandalorian, and then when we got to that last episode, it said recommended, other ones like that. It said, watch the book of Boba Fett or whatever his name is, or the book of this, and it was naming these other people and characters as movies, but they were books, and I was like, oh my God, is that like the Celestial Bible of the Galactic Wars? Do you see what I'm saying? It's all a book. It was their experience on how they helped either create the empire or destroy the empire, which is what we're doing right now. We're trying to either create the new world or destroy the elites. It's the same story but different people.
It's Boba Fett, I think it is. He was like another warrior soldier. I think, yeah.
Right, but he was also at one point a clone. He had created clones of himself to transfer. It talks about the whole thing. It transfer his consciousness into these clones as his children.
That is the story of this video game called Destiny. And like I said, I had no idea about being awake, and I had a boyfriend that was just in love with that game, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then he gave me the lore of Destiny. It's actually on YouTube, and it's phenomenal. It goes through the same stories of like Star Wars to a certain degree, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. So now obviously all the kids know about Destiny.
Right. And for all content creators like yourself and everybody else out there, like it when somebody is downloaded with something or they find something and they talk about it, it allows for everybody else to be able to see it because we're frequency beings. So, the more we talk about something, the more the consciousness of like everybody starts to, raise up into the ascension. But again, the Bible down here even talks about the plague that took out or that was plaguing, the humanity at the time. Well, guess what we have? We have a plague. And back then, the ascension, everybody was a 2 and a 5 strand DNA. We are literally a 9 and a 12 strand DNA between that. So we have 9, 10, 11, and 12 strands. The 9 and the 10 may not be able to ascend in this time. Just like back then, the 2 and the 3 weren't able to ascend. So was it really this whole thing of, them having these sores and this plague? Because again, we're in a plague during an ascension. And we're going into the 5D. Back then, they were going into the 3D. So it's just an exchange of, ascending, and if you can survive it or not.
That's the whole bit. You think they're all going to survive it?
No, I don't think everybody's going to survive it. But I do know that the numbers have changed. They were trying to wipe out most of humanity because the lake of fire that's coming, that again is mentioned in the Bible. Again, it's a blueprint. It's their law book, but it's the stories. Like, I have access to 700 years of the future from the Looking Glass, but it wasn't a future anybody wanted to go into. It was definitely run by what was called the Asiatica era, and China was the main species of the planet, but only in a mega Earth, a huge mega Earth. And there was only 1.3 million people. They wanted the population small and very controlled. So that is, I guess, why some of us are here to change that future. Because you can't have that little of people living on a mega Earth. The Earth relies on everything, the animals, humans, all life has a purpose with like certain types of energy exchanges. Or there's no life at all, it'd just be a barren planet.
Did you ever see the movie? I just saw this picture when you said China. Did you ever see the movie? Oh my gosh, Cloud Atlas. They have a whole Chinese section there of clones and humanoids and cyborgs, and then they actually changed time through that. That's the ending of the movie. You should probably watch that. It's a crazy movie. They go through all these dimensional things that are happening at the same time because, you know, we're in the present moment. You know, obviously Tom Hanks is in there, which always annoys me, but Halle Berry's in there. Very interesting ending.
No, I don't think I've seen that yet. I was watching that one series that it's like the third question or something, or the third something. What is it?
The three body problem.
Yeah, the three body problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget, I think you and I are sharing a soul.
Right?
You know, literally, like, I'm like, oh my God, she's thinking of this. I know it, you know. But like, show me pictures, and I'm like, oh, she means this.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
This last reset was that between 1815 and 1818, the Ice Age. That's when they took over Tartaria.
So as far as I'm aware, the Ice Age, we're still in an Ice Age, because if there is large amounts of ice still on the ground, then we're still in an Ice Age. And since our Antarctica, because we have the maps of Antarctica when it was a country, not a frozen wasteland. And the movie Lord of the Rings shows you that the ice, that what we currently have as the ice wall, that used to be the wall, was just mountains, and only a few of them had like ice passages. And Mordor was literally on the outside or on the inside of the wall. So when you watch those types of movies where there's this huge mountain and they mention that they have to leave Middle Earth, we are in Middle Earth. So we're actually not out of the Ice Age. It has not expired, but
what do you know about Tartaria?
Tartaria was an era. Now there's many different calendars. We live day by day off of the basic calendars, but when you go into an era, Tartaria was an era that I don't think actually lasted very long. Normally they get like 1,000-year reign. However, an era can be shorter than that. So I do know Tartaria was where they were fighting the dragons, or were they space dragons? So, because I have family in, again, the bloodlines and the crests. The crests of each of these bloodlines tell a story. And when our ancestors made these crests, they were accomplishments. So I have a few where they have their soldiers or knights or whatever, and they have spears going through dragons. So what did that look like? Were they fighting the reptilians, the ones that had wings and tails? Those ones are called space dragons, and they're literally like 20, 30 feet tall. But we have these night-crested shields showing that they were killing these dragons. And that those dragons could talk. I know that the ancient dragons could talk to us too, but they could talk through telepathy. They didn't talk through their mouth like the Dracos do. So I think Tartaria was only about 500 years, but I could be wrong. I haven't quite. Russia has the secret to Tartaria because it started there.
Mm.
I would say in the dynasty of Solomon. I think it started like shortly either in Solomon's reign or after Solomon's reign.
Mm. In your last show, what do you call it, show, you talked the Green Door or something. Excuse me.
Yes.
You talked about hidden land. When are the lands are going to be revealed to us?
It depends on who wins the world. So there's these 7 elders that I just learned about. I don't know if it's the 7 immortals. I don't know who they are. I just know of them. And I discovered them after doing the Book of Life. Because again, when you do the Book of Life, that gives you back your straw man, your past, your history. It's a lengthy process. It's not something that you just do and get overnight. So I've been doing it for, I think, almost 4 years now. And at this final document that's going into the World Court, I have to call forward the elders. And I just learned there's 7 of them. They could be the Cedars. Again, they could be the Watchers. I have no idea who they are. But as I was doing this, I realized that everybody like David Straight, Anna Von Ritz, Russell J. Gould, and all these other, places that are trying to do the patriot movements and ushering in the new world and bringing in new societies and stuff, they're all in the race to win the favor of these elders. Because from my understanding, these elders are leaving, and they have to usher in what the new world would look like. So it depends on who gets their favor. And that's the only best way I can explain it, but I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know who's going to win their favor. If it's not me, I might die. I don't know. Maybe that's why David Straight died. He didn't win their favor. I just know the 3 girls before me also died. So it's...
Yeah. Brandon Joe Williams, I know your opinion on him and stuff, but he ended up doing an entire 2-hour video about Anna Van Reitz, whatever you want to call her, and how she went through the whole court process of trying to do this BS, and that it's taking so much time, money, and effort. And he was like, why didn't she turn around and do this? He's like, I don't understand. And so I privately messaged him and just like, she's connected to the Vatican. Like, let's be real. And he goes, but he does a really nice job breaking down what she did in the court system. And I mean, I'd suggest that to anybody if you want to know what she's doing. But I really believe that she's doing it to string people along and, to discourage them to a certain degree so that she's like on top.
Well, right. Yeah. And who else does that? Amy? Is it Amy? Not Amy. What is her name? She says that she's over the Monetary One system.
Drawing
Did
a blank.
I send you her video? I know.
Is it Anne? Anne? What? Why am I saying Anne?
Anyways, the one gal, she has her show, and she looks like a newscaster, and she's like, oh, I from the news from Antarctica or something about the Monetary One and the freedom and stuff like that.
Kim Grogan.
I'll have to find the video. Kim Grogan, yes.
Gogan, yes.
Gogan, yeah. So she was an heir, but okay. So and she had a benevolent purpose, right? Like we all do. The problem is when you visit places like Egypt and Antarctica, you literally put yourself in these people's realm. And everybody has what's called um, starstruck, like, oh, I'm in the presence of a god, blah blah blah, right? If you don't realize what you are, these people are going to be so amazing to you. And when she went to Antarctica, she came back like a totally different person. Now I can see it casted shadow over her. I did talk to her a long time ago when I first met James Rink, and they were living together. And he even asked me, he's like, man, she went to Antarctica and she came back like a totally changed person. But in some of her videos, I did hear her say, I work with um, the elders. Now that these words are key, especially in law. When you say I work with, that means you work under. The route I'm taking is I don't work for anybody but the creators, right? The original creators and owners of this planet. So everybody, including the elders, would be under me. So I'm not going to go to them other than into the court where I have to summons them in order to present what I've been given from the heavens to say this is what the planet should change into. I want to bring heaven back down to earth, free all of God's children, and send everybody back home to their own planets. Nobody has to fight over this world anymore. So that's my presentation. Whether I make it or not is another story. So I don't know what Kim Gogan presented to them, but I would never go to Egypt, and I would, I would visit Egypt, but I wouldn't go to the temples. I know what happens in the pyramids. Again, my family is in the Illuminati, so you go to the inside the pyramids and you do the secret stuff, you get possessed. That's it. You're starstruck. You're like, oh, the ancient people are gonna like download into my brain and they take you over. So that's just how it is. So I have a hard time trusting people who do that. So Kim Gogan went to Antarctica and was possessed by an ancient ET. So, but it was, these guys only can do it if you give them consent. They can't do it if you don't give consent. So I've never given consent. And again, I've seen my grandma tried to drag me down to a ritual to be the wife of Lucifer when I was 17, and I ran out of the church because I thought I was getting baptized. So to me, baptism's like not a good thing because it was not friendly at all. But it is definitely another soul contract. So yeah, I don't know how to explain what's going to happen. I just know that everybody that's chosen, however anybody wants to look at that, you have an opportunity to change something or bring something to light or even talk about it. But you have to believe what you're, coming with. Not everybody's right and not everybody's wrong because we're all on multiple timelines. So something that may have happened 2 days ago might not be on your permanent timeline. So that's where a lot of people are like, oh, they're frauds or they're fake and they're this, because the timelines can shift or merge. So it's not that everybody's fake. It's not that everybody's a fraud. It just depends on what ends up on the permanent timeline because we're all experiencing different lives because of all the timelines.
What do you think will happen this year?
I agree to that big time, only because of how like my life's going through this, and I'm always pulling back on certain videos because I'm like, all right, it's not time, and then I'll get a download where I'm like, okay, it's this time for now, But it's very interesting about the Kim Gogan because she was doing an assembly thing in New York. Well, the guy that she was connected to, and they ended up having a whole big situation, and now she's on her own, and the guy's name was Tank, and they wanted to do this New York assembly thing. And then I got, wind of it because people were like trying to get a hold of me to do it. But when they had this interview with this guy, he was a lunatic, and I just moved away. And then I never really watched Kim's stuff anymore. But she's connected to also, oh my gosh, what's her name? Marina Jacoby. So they did a couple of videos about like physics, which I like. I like that stuff. So, but a long time ago, and I'm sure I notebooked it because it's coming into my head right now about some of the concepts about like new Earth and, the dimensions that we're moving into and stuff.
Right. Yeah, the higher dimensions. And it's not really that bad. It's just maybe that the 9 and the 10 can't ascend. So that might be the 5 to 10% of people that you have to do it again, or they'll be reborn into the higher DNA bodies, because the natural evolution, again, from what I'm seeing, because doing my bloodline that, again, I'm submitting into court. I'm going to do a book on it too, to show people, but I didn't want to just have the names and dates. I wanted to actually have the political story behind the marriages. And because back then you married based on, what would you call that, Rusty? Based on political status and like treaties and stuff. So marriages had to push you forward, kind of like what we see in the movies, Bridgertons and stuff. It had to be a good match, of, raising the bar. So in my family's lineages, found so many God connections. Like, I'm related to Adam and Eve, like we all are, and Lilith and Enlil were married, so I'm related to that bloodline, which is fascinating. Um, Odin, and Odin was actually from the Far East, and he traveled. He was a war god from the Far East who traveled to um, the Norwegians and became their god. So it was curious. I don't know at the time. I guess I'll have to look back in history of the date where he came to the Norwegians and became their god, how that happened. So, and where he was in the Far East and what civilization lived in the Far East at that time, or where on the map it was. Maybe it's one of the missing islands, you know what I mean? But natural evolution just means these people are a higher DNA, and they came down to breed with the, I guess, the women or the men at the time to naturally evolutionize our genes. Hold on, I have an impatient son. Okay, sorry. So yeah, did we come from fish? I mean, we could have come from the myrmidons and had fishy tails. I don't know. Also related to two of the myrmidons. Well, it was a god king myrmidon, and his wife was a goddess nymph of the sea, and both of them were Hercules' parents. So he was actually not a demigod; he was a god. So I want to publish this, but I want to publish it with the story, the real story. And I want to give you guys the real names of these people. Because once you get the real name, you get the real story instead of, oh, it's just Achilles. Well, Achilles has got a bigger name. His parents have a bigger name because they came from the house of, 50 other people in their name. So it is rather fascinating when you climb that ascension of knowledge.
Do you know where Odin is today?
They did say that he did finally die. I have the coordinates to his grave. I would like to at some point, if I'm allowed to leave America, because I have the coordinates to where Enlil's temple was, Adam and Eve's kingdom was. Like, they're not addresses, but they are map coordinates. I do have their resting places. So I would like to do a video of traveling to these different places and showing them.
I live in Norway.
I don't believe that's where he is. But you have to remember, Odin was from a very long time ago. So the name of the land back then is not the name today. Norway was actually founded by, what was his name? Gandalf in the movie Lord of the Rings. Because I'm related to him. and I didn't think he was real.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So Norway was a kingdom of who's known as Greybeard, which we know as a Norwegian pirate, or Saruman, and Switzerland was Norway. And Gandalf and Greybeard went into war together for many years, and then the short story is that Greybeard gifted him Norway, and that's what he named it. Gandalf named it Norway. And he had like 3 or 4 sons and a daughter. And after Gandalf passed away, but he is half elf because it's in his name. He comes from the Elven kingdom, which is fascinating. So
Yes.
that gives the proof of the elves being on the actual planet, and it's not all fairy tale. So, but he's also a wizard. So that part's not fictional. Again, I didn't even know that was a real guy. I thought it was a character in a book, right? Or the movie. But he's real. So again, once you have his real name, it tells you everything. It's insane. So his sons actually tried to overthrow Greybeard, and they were all defeated by him. Greybeard killed off 3 of the sons, 2 or 3 of the sons, because I can't remember if he had 3 or 4, and left one alive and said, if you ever try to take over my kingdom again, I will destroy your entire family and take back Norway as Switzerland. So,
What? There is no place you can find this story around here.
sorry, my kids are fighting now.
Wait, so this is you're talking about this is Lord of the Rings?
The movie Lord of the Ring has Gandalf in it. But see, again, I thought he was just a made-up character, but he's not. He's real.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
And
But the Rings of Power, I watched and I loved it. And that's a crazy movie, which I think is interesting. But have you seen Rings of
right,
Power? It's on
I have
Prime. It's
seen it, yeah.
excellent. Excellent. I mean, I don't know, I loved it because I was like, oh my God, I never even knew about this underworld.
Yeah, but yeah, again, this is why they don't want people to go past 15 generations, because they don't want you to see who your evolutionary line was. Thank you for sharing.
Mary, may I ask
How
a question? Oh, sorry.
accurate is the Snorri saga of Iceland, of all the kings in Norway?
Well, it depends on the narrative, I think. So for the public narrative, for the sleepers, it's a political military move. Um, but for, I would say, the secret space military program. Okay, so you guys know that there's a hollow Earth, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there's 2 entrances, up north and down south.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't do anything with south because we're the northern kingdom, right? But we're also domed in. Now, Alaska, because my dad worked for Area 51. He was in the military, human intelligence as well, but he was also an engineer, like military engineer of some sort. And he helped design or build or something the train that went from Area 51 to Alaska. And on his DD-214, it said he was there to guard these particular missiles in Alaska. Now, I don't think that's what it is. So having known what's kind of happening with the northern continents, these are the gatekeepers to the entrance to Middle Earth. And Russia, somewhere back in, I believe, in the early 2010s, 15s, Iceland and Greenland, was it Greenland? One of those countries filed bankruptcy because the women went on strike, because they were living in a world like we were living in, feminine suppression. They were working, being the moms, being, abused by their husbands and everything else. They were literally still living in that type of era where they had no rights. So whichever country it was, it collapsed. They didn't go to work one day. They literally all got together secretly and were like, we should all just not go to work one day. I read the article. It was insane. And it was on the news way back in the day, but they took it down as quickly as they put it up. And so the whole economy just crashed because none of the women went to work. And the men didn't know how to do the job that the women worked at. So Russia came in and helped the president there in exchange for, I would say, the rights to that country. Whether it's Iceland or Greenland, both of them are gatekeepers. So Russia
Iceland.
had
It was
control.
Iceland.
Iceland. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's where the highest population is, right? Yeah, because it's green, and then Greenland is ice. So yes, that was the country that collapsed, and now the women don't want anything to do with the men, because they at the time they were power egotistical, and now they're not. They have their free rights, but they don't want to. They're just being aggressive. So, anyways, the thing is the country protects the entrance. Those countries, all those countries, northern Russia does, Alaska is one of the entrances. I think certain parts of the Philippines, or I don't remember what the islands are called, but there's islands up there, and all of those are military establishments that don't allow any of us to go to the gate because we're dirty. We have parasites and we don't eat well, and we're considered dead. We're like zombies because of the Book of the Dead. We chose to fall from living.
Mary, can I ask a question? It's Deb. I'm in the UK. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, darling. What's your take on this magnetic pole reversal that everyone's talking about? That the magnetic poles are reversing.
I think they're just recalibrating.
Yeah.
Because our consciousness is recalibrating. Remember, we're part of the earth. Those that belong here are part of the earth, and if we're waking up, then we're the ones that can recalibrate the pole system. But if you look on your cell phones, and I've said it a few times, and go into your compass settings and put your compass setting to true north, you'll see that the true north and the magnetic poles are off. So I think it has a lot to do with our consciousness. So I don't know how far the world's spun off of its course, but I think there's some truth in that one show that I just mentioned earlier, the third something, because it talks about the three suns. We do have three suns, and I don't know what happens when those three suns come together, but I think it gives us a whole history of what happens when those three suns come together. One sun can actually pull the Earth into a different orbit. And I saw that somewhere in the Forbidden Knowledge, and I did find it on YouTube once, and when I posted it, they ended up taking it down. Because we have the two yellow suns and then the dark sun.
Is there anything to do with the Vega system being our true north star?
No, I don't think so. Again, they're going to give you the opposite. So if it's Vega, it has to be something else because they don't want you to figure out where your true north is. So you have to use a different star point.
Yeah,
but it also depends on who you are.
Yeah, the history is stating that, the Vega system was our true north star, and it shifted because they didn't want us to know our real point of view. That's from Remote Viewer, the teacher that I did a course with and stuff.
Apparently, it's every 6,000 years that that we get a magnetic pole reversal. And the catastrophists have documented that this is not, the excursion doesn't take hundreds of thousands of years. It's happening every 6,000 years. And what that means is that the crust can move. And I'm just wondering if places that were in certain places before, countries were in a different location before. The mammals that they found, the mammoths, the woolly mammoths they found in the ice, the question would be, what were they eating? Because there's nothing to eat in that kind of barren land. So did the crust move, and did they just get solidified in the ice? There's a lot of talk going on about this, and I just find it quite disturbing.
Well, again, I think it has to do with our technology, because they tell us without telling us when they go into the temples or they uncover a hidden civilization and it had all this ancient tech in it, you know? So again, we have a weather machine. If they wanted to, they could literally, you know, turn Montana into the next ice age. And that would freeze everybody. And then the giants, how they were frozen literally in place. So did we use Medusa's head in some projected CERN thing and freeze everybody into stone?
Yeah.
So what was the technology? Apparently Atlantis had the most advanced technology, but it also was handed over by the magical people and given to the Munday, which are the archons and the other things. These are the actual demons, and demon in the definition, the real definition, is just non-magical beings. So these could have been the Anunnaki. Again, naturally magical people or alchemists don't need like technology to advance them, because they're a higher sort of consciousness. But lower level beings, I could imagine, need technology.
Yeah.
Because what does Superman need? He doesn't. He just flies, right? And he's got all this strength. So he doesn't need technology to hear and see and project. But people of a lower level evolutionary species, again, on the movie Jupiter Ascending, when she's like, "Who are you and why'd you take me?" He's like getting ready to lift her off the planet, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, there was a protocol for this." What did he say, Rusty? There's a protocol, and they told us about people from lower level or newer uncivilized worlds or something.
Are you talking about Tatum Chatham or Chatham Tatum, whatever his name is?
Yeah, Tatum Chatham, yeah.
Yeah. He gives him the first. She gives him the first. He gives her the first explanation of what the humans are really, and then the other true history comes from the other guy.
Right. So yeah. So again, it's just evolutionary, and I don't. Again, we're in a prison planet, but to what extent is the prison planet? Does it mean we're stuck here to evolutionize, and then when we figure it out as a species, but we're not allowed to ascend unless the world comes together? That's what the resets are about. Because again, we can't go, I guess, into war when we leave the planet. That's kind of silly.
Yeah, for sure. You know the Book of Life stuff I read through. There's a lot of stuff about like getting your documentation together, and it's different here in the UK than it is in America. But like we're getting hit really hard with the digital ID, and it occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to do the Book of Life if they forced us to do digital ID, because that would circumvent your birth certificate, your national insurance number, all that lot. Do you think that's connected to what you're trying to do? Do you think that's them trying to scupper that?
I do, because I don't have to get the real ID anymore. But you guys have to try to find the equivalency, because every country has an immunity passport of some sort. Ours is called the TWIC passport or the TWIC card.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
Huh?
I didn't understand what that was. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know what it was either until these Templars came into my life and, told me I had to get these things. And I was like, well, I don't know what an immunity card is. So I had asked a friend of mine who was a captain in the military, and she was like, I think it's the TWIC card, Mary. And so she was telling me this whole history of it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll ask them about that. So I told them, and they said, yes, that's what it is. So I have immunity to travel safely during maritime. Now, and again, I'll always go back to the War of Germany. Remember where those people in the pictures were wearing the red patch, the Nazi
Mm-hmm.
patch? If you look in some of those photos, those people are like bending over and running in fear when you have these guards beating people in the street, right? Because they had immunity. That red patch, it's not that they were Nazis, they just found a way not to be part of the harvest.
Mm.
So that's what these are. Now that we're in higher technology, we don't have to wear a patch. We don't have to get a certain tattoo. We just have to wear a card, which is considered a passport. This is a 5-star passport. So that allows me to go into the buildings without being arrested or detained. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. Somebody is going to, is going to bypass it, but there's consequences. And I'm learning how to get around those consequences right now. Not for us, but for, the government that's resisting. Because you have to come in peace. That's the whole thing. And that was not a thing in my life because my life was always survival. My life was always fighting somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so to put down the figurative sword or, my weapon as a military, person and pick up a pen, I was like, you want me to fight with a pen? What the hell is this going to do, right? So I did not believe in the process I was doing, but I know for a fact that any type of secret society elders are not going to talk to you, period, unless they want to save their soul, and you're the one that has to do it. So, and I had got hit by the Masons and the Templars, so it must have been important enough that those two factions needed me to do something. And now that I know who I am, it's like, okay, I get it now. But how do I do this in peace? How do I do this and not coming in with such an ego I can't hold my head up anymore? How do we free the people, the children of God? How do we send all these invader races? Because we're all stuck here. That's the thing. You have all these different species, not just the human-looking ones, but you do have the other people, like the Bigfoots. I think those guys are the Chewbacca's, right? That we see on Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They all look the same. So you've got the Phaenoids and the Aquanoids, and there was something that happened in Atlantis. And the one thing I do think about with this is what happened to the Lyrans and the Lycans. What if the ones that had the majority DNA of the beast turned into the beast themselves? What if our cats are really the Lycans? What if our dogs are really, or I mean the Lyrans, sorry, the cat people, and then the Lycans are actually our dogs? What happened to those civilizations? They just disappeared.
Mm. Yeah.
So there was some type of magic that was in Atlantis that didn't freeze time, but changed the DNA. And I think that's why the esoterics lean so much on the technology from Atlantis and that scrubbing. But that's from what I've read, the technology was beyond our grasp. And we figured it out, but we used it as a weapon instead of evolution.
Mm.
So when I approached the general, I guess with my offer, I said, nobody has to die anymore. We can all go home. That's the one thing they're fighting for, is a home. So all these 200-something species that are here are fighting for this as their home. Now, could you imagine having 200 brothers and sisters fighting over one castle and you want to be the head? It's not going to be pretty. Everybody's going to try to kill each other.
Mm.
So the book of life is in the Bible. Again, I'm not a Bible thumper. I don't lean on it as fact. after finding out the whole bloodline on the biblical side is interesting. You see the truth, and then having gone back and listened to, and I'm not giving anybody an excuse, but the elites and the Hollywood people and all those guys, they all say one thing: if you knew the truth, you would be upset. And I think that was their rebellion when they found out the truth.
It seems
You
like in the
know,
Bible there's two of everybody. It seems like there's two, like there's a vengeful God that says if you don't, you'll be thrown to a pit of fire, and then there's a loving God. You get two elements within the Bible.
correct. You do have the duality of good and
And
evil, but that's where you have to find the balance within yourself, because you can be good and evil. We all can. We can be bad,
mm,
and you just have to come into balance with it. And having the SSP background with me, I call it my monster. But it's still me. You know what I mean? It's still a part of me. It's not something that I could just rip out, just like none of us can actually kill our egos. And you
mm,
need your ego to ascend. You just need to have control of it. You can't
mhm,
let your ego get the better of you. And that's what's called balance. So I do know a lot of special forces soldiers that try to find peace with their monsters. And so they'll go to like the Shaolin monks and stuff. They'll become monks because they know they're dangerous, and that's where they hide. They hide from the world because the world triggers their monster. And I guess in a way I kind of do that too. I stay close to my family and the country out in the woods to stay away from large groups of people, because I know what I'm capable of when I black out, and it's not good. And I don't want to
mm.
be captured and thrown in an experimental lab somewhere to be somebody's next, like, oh, well, why is she opening her mind? You have to find peace and your place, I guess. So the Book of
But
Life kind of walks you through that, and it opens the doors that you are trying so desperately to open, and it closes the doors that no longer serve your higher purpose.
if you were used in the space program, my lab or whatever, that was against your free will, surely.
No,
If you had
not
been
really.
forced to do 20 and back, and you take you that's as a child, surely. So you're saying it's a choice. You still made a choice, or
Because you were a child, somebody gave permission, and most of us got it from when our parents assigned for our kids to go to public school. Now, when we were taken as children, my grandma gave permission, and so we got taken, and she knew it, but she didn't tell my mom. The cartoons in America are based off of the secret space program. So the one, and I know Rusty can validate, the Magic School Bus literally tells you that the Magic School Bus, being the school buses of our kids, they get taken to different dimensions, different worlds, and they get to explore space and stuff like that. So it's telling you what they do as a child. And you only have to get permission because while your parents are at school or at work or wherever they're at and you're in school, you are government property. So the school can literally take you on any field trip they want, but you're not really going where you think you're going because of the
yeah,
veils of illusion.
we have
That's the permission.
we have the gifted and talented program as well, where people at school used to.
Right. So and it is secretly worded, but it seems unfair. But again, as I ascended upward into this knowledge, I was like, these entities literally cannot experiment on you without your permission. But the law language that they're using, I don't agree with it. But there's so many different laws, and there's so many different types of legal systems. Somewhere we give permission, but we're angry because in our our knowing at the time, we didn't give permission.
Yeah.
But somewhere in your history, either your parents gave permission and then we reiterated it when we turned 18. But they don't have to tell us specifically the when and the how. You just have to find a way to redact it. And the only way I found, because I've been through these patriot groups, I've been through some of them. And then when the one with Russell J. Gould, when he literally had the courts remove me with
Yeah.
federal U.S. Marshals, I realized he was my judge. He's
Yeah.
not giving anybody freedom.
No, of course it's not.
And he tells you, he's like, I'm over you, like, because I can't trust you guys not to do something stupid. Well, that sounds like the goddamn government to me, because it's the same thing, different platform. So I've got kids. I know a lot of you have children that we're all worried about, and I was like, what kind of I was at one point, and I hate the fact that I had this thought, but I had a thought that, what if the war started? Because it was going to be like World War II on steroids in America. And I did not want my kids and I to go to the concentration camps, because they would have killed my middle son, used my daughter as a raping tool because of our genes. So they would have raped her to death, until she bore as many children that the Illuminati could control. And I don't know what they would have done with my oldest. So I was like, at the point where if this war starts, I would have to take them out and myself, just to avoid us being used like that. So I was desperate, just like everybody else. And so I did the group things, and then they give us a little bit, enough to get the government to back off for a while, but then they come back at you even harder, it seemed like. So this master exit that I was given had certain language in it from Old English, meaning Europe, but the way it's written is actually Proto-Phoenician, Proto-Canaanite, and Proto-Sumerian. So it goes back even further than Atlantis, because those were all the way back 120,000 years. Atlantis fell 63,000 years ago. So this is the ancient document that frees you. It's different for everybody. It's going to feel like you're going to get harvested. It's going to feel like it's a spiritual battle. It's going to feel different for everybody. It depends on what's happening in your world. It took me 6 months to rewrite the two, put them in as one, upgrade the laws to today. And each country can do it. We just have to find out what your laws are. We have to change a few things to fit your narrative, but everybody's birth certificate is in New York. So you have to file it over here.
Yeah.
Because everybody is being traded on the stock exchange, which is in New York.
I remember when I was looking for my birth certificate. I mean, I have supposedly my original, but because of the whole Brandon thing, they made you go look at your birth certificate. When they looked for mine, just so you know, I know this is all probably cryptic and taken back or whatever, but the bottom line is they couldn't find mine, but they found my sister's. And what happened to my hospital was in the 90s, that all went on fire and all these things were hidden. It's also a hospital that I believe a lot of the mobsters were in because of the town it was in, but they never ultimately found mine at all. And I'd have to go to the town records to see, and that's my next step, but I haven't followed up on it. But overall, they never found me.
Right. Well, I mean, the schools have to have a record. Did the schools burn down?
No, but I find that really interesting because my school, I felt like was the Fourth Reich, and I could tell you wild stories about that and how I fooled them in the system. And I mean, it's actually a really interesting story to talk about, going on those class trips. And then suddenly we're stuck there for 4 hours because a bus didn't work, going to like the museums in New York City, also going to King Tut's tomb. I mean, like I said, I have a photographic memory, and I know things were switched there, and I thought
in my mind, it could have been a dream state. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh my God, they definitely took some interesting situations to kind of hijack the kids.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, and I was in school since I'm born in 67. Obviously, it was like 72, 73. Yeah, very, very scary. Plus, I live on Long Island, so you got a lot of the Vanderbilt homes there and the Gold Coast and all that corrupt situation.
Right. Well, yeah, and all I'm saying is with the again, it's a master exit template first. You're the one that makes it into your book of the living, and it has to be filed in a certain way at a chancery recorder clerk's office, and it has to be a specific one because there's only 3 in America and they're hidden, except for the one I use. Um, when you insert your book of life, it's a trust, it's a treasury, it claims everything. You put your whole straw man in there, and when it's recorded, there's 2 sections that the Templars told me if I do the right step, and I can't give this step out publicly because everybody will try to do their other documents with it, and it's just going to make a big mess. So when done correctly, the scanner they use literally pinpoints certain language that's in this template as it's recording your estates and stuff. So there's hidden words in there, there's hidden meanings. So it scans it as long as it sees most of everything that's in there. The receipt shows you where it goes because there's 2 recording places in Chancery. If you don't do it right, it gets recorded in Black's Law Dictionary, which is, as we all know, the Book of the Dead, right? So we're all the living dead, we're all the living zombies. But when you do this book, it gets recorded into the Law Library of the Living. That's how I know a lot of this newer law. It's not actually new. It's been there, but it's new to me because I was able to access it. And then I waited the 60 days. None of the elites or the kings or anybody petitioned my claim because they can't, because they're all illegitimate. And if you, as the heir, it doesn't matter what you're the heir to, you're the heir to freedom. And that's what you need to fight for first. If you're, if we come in with the intention to get millions of dollars, it's not, it knows you. The book knows you. The heavens know you. And we can talk about, oh, they know our heart and our spirit and blah, blah, blah all day long. But this book literally, you sync with it. So if you're going to, I'm not saying anybody's going to on this chat. I'm just saying from my experience, it reads you like you read it because we are bringing back together the soul, the spirit, and the flesh. Because at birth, when they do the birthing rituals, which some of you have already learned, they cut your foot, you bleed, and then they do some satanic ritual over the baby when they take them to go get weighed, measured, and everything else. And if they don't do it at the hospital, because some people are having their kids at home, they do it in the doctor's visit. They will find a way to do it, even if they have to freeze you for a few minutes to be able to do it. And you were like, no, I was there the whole time. That didn't happen. Well, how do you think we do 20 years and back and then come back 3 minutes later? And we've been gone 20 years. It's the same technology. Everybody's soul, spirit, and flesh have literally been expanded all over the world. So with this template, you're bringing all that back into the one physical, spiritual, and the consciousness. And that's why they call it the Christ consciousness, because you're christening yourself back together as the one person, the one, whatever it is that you're the one to. So again, I this process that I'm doing had the least resistance and had the least, I would say, government interaction in an aggressive way. When I go to, state, or not state court, but regular court, county court, superior court, the judges take their robes off. I've never seen that before until I did this. So they're no longer judging over me, they're acting as my accountant. They won't look at me in the eyes, they always look at the deputy clerks or, whoever else is in there. in order to talk to me because they can't look at me. So
I read through it all, Mary. Thank you for sending it me on email. I read through all of it, and I just felt really overwhelmed that I didn't know how to get even, like you say, Rusty. Like I haven't got my original birth certificate. I've only got a copy. I don't know where to get that. There's so much stuff to get, and I just found it really overwhelming. But I really feel drawn to doing it.
well, the first thing you want to do is the list is there. You don't have to get everything before you start. Because remember, each page is a door in the spiritual realm of your ascension. Page 1 is where you should start. And then that will open some type of door. Page 2 is another door. So when you print it out, it can't be printed out front and back. You have to leave the back page blank because it's a door of ascension. I don't know if it's the front door, the back door. I just know you're closing the doors that don't serve you in this realm, and you're opening the doors to be able to move forward. So if there's a block somewhere in your desire to do this, there's no block on you typing. Do you see what I'm saying? It's free to type. You can get whatever. I recommend people doing Google Docs. I don't know if you guys can access that in the UK or anywhere in Europe, but it's a little hard to use in the beginning, but if you ever want me to help you line it, uniform it, look over it, see if the secret keys are in there, so that way it passes everything, I can help with that. And I don't care about people's private information. You know, I'm not here to just sell people's anything. I look at make sure you guys have the right keys for the ascension, for you to move forward. I don't look at anybody's private information. I just want to make sure that what you have in there is going forward. So, because if you ascend and you get it right, then that's a frequency the earth is feeling. We have 25 people now since I started this, and I'm seeing the positive changes in the world. It's still kind of scary, but it's not like it was in 2020 where we knew the war was coming, where we knew the concentration camps were down the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't focus on what you can't get. Focus on what you can get and start typing, because the physical is a spiritual connection. That's why we meditate. You can't get in, not many people can get into the spirit realm without meditating first. And meditation is something that in the esoteric families we teach children, like my kids. They're learning meditation because it's a child's tool. It's not an adult tool, it's a child's tool. When you're walking, you don't, by the time you become an adult in the esoteric families, you can walk and talk and be in like 50 different things at once because you've mastered them all in your childhood. But that technology is lost to you guys. It was lost to me after 17 because I didn't take the oath. I refused. I'm like, yeah, I love life and I love humanity. And that was not something they wanted to hear. So I didn't get to ascend into the dark arts. I didn't want to. I didn't want anything to do with it. But I have the open realm to the spirit realm because of a shaman, an Indian shaman out here. And so he taught me how to be into the spirit realm. As a child, I was being taught. So I have these tools. I'm trying to help you guys to also get those tools. I wish my friend Shannon was on here because she's connected to the heavens now too. And I had to let her know. I'm like, look, when you start connecting with these people, you have to set boundaries because they get just as excited to connect with you as we do to connecting back to them. And it's not a secret that we've lost the connection. They talk about it. The priests and preachers even say, I'm the mediator between you and the heavens because you've lost your connection, right? They remind you that you've lost your connection. But when you get back in touch with whatever level of heaven, you know, you're from, or your consciousness, your spirit, whatever it is, it's exciting and very overwhelming, and they don't have time. we have time here. So they'll wake you up at all hours of the day. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Sometimes they can freeze you if they want to talk to you. And I was driving one day with my kids in the car to take them to school. This was before, or that was actually right after COVID, and they were in school before I removed them out. And I was stuck. I thought I was going to crash into a wall. And I was like, disconnect, disconnect. And I couldn't move. And my son was even like, Mom, Mom, you're going to hit that wall. And then they released me, and I was just barely able to correct my driving. So again, they get just as excited to be able to recommunicate with you. So it's a spiritual journey when you're ready to take it. Everybody's eventually going to take it. For those who are meant to ascend, everybody will find a way to do it. But I always say start typing because it opens doors.
Okay, that's good advice. I'll give that a go. What does ascension mean to you then, Mary?
Ascension is, I guess it's many different things. Again, it depends on who you are. I belong to the earth here. So ascension for me is bringing heaven back down to earth and being able to be at a power above the, I guess what we would call the bad guys. But again, when you get this up to where you're at, you start realizing maybe they're not bad. I'm not saying they're good, but they're all actors. So what if they're not really harvesting the children? What if they're acting like it because they have to scare us in order to get us to do something because we were comfortable? Like, would you change your life if you were comfortable? No, nobody would. If I'm comfortable, I have the perfect marriage, the perfect house, perfect job. My life's amazing. I have like friends that, whatever. Nobody's going to change comfortable. Why would I want to go comfortable to uncomfortable? That just doesn't sound good at all.
But you just said they might do something terrible to your daughter. So how does that? On one hand, you say they might. Do you know what I mean?
Because at the stage they had to harvest humanity because we couldn't find a way. So you have different species. We have species on the planet that eat humans. We know this. But we eat lizards. So how do we know we're not actually, the alligators might be an offspring of these guys, of the light, or whatever you call those guys, the Dracos.
Yeah.
Because so many species came down here. And we have no idea who's actually running the show. It could be the vampires, it's been said that the vampires are running America. So vampires are actually fairies. So why are fairies eating humans? Because they were mixed with a Monday, a non-magical being that disrupted their genetic process of balance. That's why in some of the movies where you see, I guess, creatures or different species say they don't want them marrying humans, those humans are not humanoids. They're non-magical. They have some kind of karmic debt. They can be born, like the Harry Potter movies, like the what's his name, Mr. Filch. He was born from a very powerful magical family, but he was considered a Monday, no magic, a Muggle, no magic. It's a karmic debt. Because of the wars that have been happening, we could have all been magical beings at one point, witches, warlocks, whatever you want to call us. But because we got caught in the wars that didn't make sense at the time, and we used our power to kill innocent people, that is a God-given sin, a real sin, which is a crime if we have to think about it in the celestial 10 commandments. Any crime against an innocent person will be dealt in karma. So what does karma look like? It means you need to be reborn to learn a lesson, not to use magical powers to hurt others. So yes, we were going to get harvested because we don't know who's running the show. It could have been the Dracos. They eat us, so we're sorry, are you guys there? I had a call coming in.
Yeah.
So yes, if we can't ascend, there are existing treaties and contracts, and a lot of these treaties you can find in the Antarctica Treaty, interterrestrial treaties. So I was able to Google them, so I think you guys can find them. It'll take you a while to find them, but there are treaties of harvesting because we have an imbalance of species that, not everybody eats cows or horses or sheep. So in order to keep a compliance with these other creatures that do eat human on the menu, I'm guessing that's the treaties that were made to allow the trafficking and the theft of humans. And then as it got more noticed, they started to create the human farms. And so, yes, we now have human farms in order to feed those guys. So they don't run amok out here and start just unnecessarily killing species of different types of humanoids. I don't agree with it because I don't want to be on anybody's menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I get we have to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. If you're a world leader and you have species on here and you don't believe there's any other planet out there that you can go to, or you don't have the technology to get to it, how do you keep peace with all these different beings? I mean, how do you justify one species eating another species? I don't know if I could, but I have an understanding of why they did it. Because at the time, that's all they had to keep them from obliterating the human species altogether.
Yeah, but from what we know and what the general population is now hearing from the files, it's not just eating, is it? It's like it's extreme pain and torture, and the way a cat will play with a mouse before it kills it. It's just disgraceful.
Right, because some people got drunk on power, and I agree that the inbreeding got out of hand. 1,000%. But I would let the military do their job. And I do believe that they are. But again, it depends on who's in power. The military can only interact with the living, with the free people. And there's one thing on the planet that there's not a lot of, and that's the free people, because we all got indoctrinated into the straw man since the 1500s. And the reason that King Henry VIII was so famous was because he was the one that wrote that contract with the Vatican.
Right.
Because I found it in the canon laws and the history, and it wasn't all about him, killing off his wives. He married all those, or concubined with those women, in order to get the power of those specific houses, in order to do the straw man thing.
Yeah, he was right.
Yeah, and it didn't matter if he had a girl or a boy with them. He really didn't care. He just wanted the lineage, and that's how the Romans did it. They wanted the lineage, whether it was feminine or male. They were able to capture the bloodline.
Yeah. Are you connected to Mary, Queen of Scots?
I am, yes. Through,
I thought so.
What's his name? King Francis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I do know that a lot of the public knowledge said that King Francis and Mary didn't consummate, but they did. And they were married for 5 years before his stepmother and half-brother killed him off. And they had a daughter. Her name eventually was Queen Mary as well. She was a redhead, just like Queen Mary of Scots. And these priests from, what is it called? The World Royal Administration. And again, I've never heard of this until the Templars. And they said the child was taken for its protection so that the bloodline wouldn't die. The legitimate bloodline. I'm not saying that her other heirs, but even with her third husband, she had 5 kids. I'm related to that husband on my dad's side through a
Mm.
daughter. But the one that was married when she was married to, was it King James? James? I think so.
Yeah.
That wasn't her cousin. And King James was not her real son. The child, and because they sent me the copy of the tutors. And again, I don't trust history, but if it's that hidden from the public, then it has to have more truth to it. And the tutors prided themselves on their, their accurate accounting. They stated that the child that was born was severely deformed. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So, did that son in those portraits look severely deformed, or did he look like a normal man? He looked
Mm.
normal. Obviously, he got married and had more kids. Not many people are going to try to, breed with somebody who's severely deformed if they can even breed anyways. And the fact that they were half brother and sister or brother and sister is an illegal marriage. So they said they were cousins and they were not cousins. They were brother and sister, which would have made him illegitimate. It made any child born from it illegitimate. So, and what son would kill their own mother? I mean, he was more loyal to Queen Elizabeth than anybody else. So why would he be loyal to somebody not his mother? So it makes you wonder if the child that replaced the deformed one was actually Elizabeth's child, because they were both redheads.
It's ironic that there's all this interbreeding with cousins and stuff within the royal bloodlines, but
Correct.
I mean, it's a law here. I think it's actually law here that you can't do that. You can't marry a cousin or breed with her.
Right. Well, out in America, it depends on the state.
Really?
Some are like, oh, it has to be a third cousin, or more separated. Yeah. But then they have the where you can get implanted with somebody else's egg. There's been a couple of cases that popped up where, people found out they were dating and they were brother and sister.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had a couple cases of those. So the only legitimate families from Queen Mary are from the first husband and the third. Okay, sorry. Somebody keeps calling in. Yo, get the what off? Oh, okay, yeah. Look up. Go. Sorry, I got another phone call. So I think I know who was actually the real heir between the James and the Mary Queen of, or not James, but what was his name? The second one that was forced into marriage.
Oh God.
Oh, yes, my mom. She
I
knows.
know all this.
Huh?
I used to know all this.
I know. Mom,
I've,
who was Queen Mary of Scots' second husband? James's father. It was.
I know James's mother was the first one, which was Darling. Was it Darling or something like that?
No, Mary, Queen of Scots. No, she was married. Her first husband was Francis.
Oh, okay, yeah. Second husband was Darling. I think it was Darling.
Okay, so the one that succeeded the throne of Scotland.
He succeeded the throne of England and Scotland because
And his name was Darlin?
Darling or something like that.
Darley?
He was an English citizen.
Oh, you guys go get it. You can. Come on.
his wife all their children on her. And it was his son, James, who inherited the throne because when, after Elizabeth executed Mary Queen, or Mary, she, and on her deathbed, she appointed her successor as being James Solomon, who was then at the time king.
Okay.
Can you drink water?
No.
I'm dying. Do you have any water?
No, go. Go get some water.
Look according to my hand.
Well, that's what you get for playing with big objects.
I won though every time.
Okay,
But
go.
she
I'm
hurt
on a
my
call.
arm.
I have a ton of people listening to you right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Of course, stabbed me.
Yes, they're lemons. So anyways, I think that the baby didn't die. I think, and because remember, Mary Queen of Scots had an attachment to France because of her first husband, and she was raised there. So I think it's Quasimodo, because that church is the same church that she loved and adored. So I think Quasimodo was the child that was severely deformed.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yes.
Mm-hmm. What happened? Yeah, and what was the significance of the fire?
Probably to hide the evidence of a possible error from Quasimodo.
Mm-hmm. You know, the recent fire, back in 2020, I think. 2021.
Oh, I don't know. I forgot that fire even took place.
Yeah, there was, it was all, allegedly.
Because it burned too when Quasimodo was coming into the light.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Right, okay.
Yeah.
And
they said it was because of the revolution. Well, why would you have a revolution? What if the people discovered that Quasimodo was Mary's heir that she had sent, or they, not her, but I would say the priests that were loyal to Mary had that child sent to France. You know what I mean? Because that was their whole genetic thing. It doesn't, just because the gene itself has a deformed child, it doesn't mean that child's offspring will be deformed, because as long as it spreads out, as long as it's with another genetic individual not related.
Well, didn't Queen Elizabeth have a disabled child that got there's something about Queen Elizabeth, I'm sure, having a child that was, oh gosh, I'll have to that was squirreled away somewhere. Apparently she was mad.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I'll have to Google it.
Well, none of her children ever came surface. My mom said that when Queen Elizabeth may have gotten pregnant, she kind of left for some other she went on progress for many months.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry,
again, I feel like only those guys would know who the record keepers. So what do we need to do?
I need to cut off the old collar, which I didn't know.
Oh.
I need to fit the new collar, so I slide it in. The big collar, donut.
Okay, well, I have to end this because now I've got chores to do.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody for coming on. And I did record it, so I'll repost it for anybody that missed it due to any kind of time constraints. I was trying to be able to reach Europe and Australia for some of the people that wanted to come on there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let's see. Stop recording. That was a good though. It was almost 2 hours.